Hey, what's going on YouTube? Sebastian here with Spin Driving School, and in today's video we are going to take a look at winter driving. I've had requests for this video on multiple occasions, so that's what we're gonna do. It's we have gotten a fair amount of snow in the last couple of weeks, so perfect timing. So general rule of thumb, if you're going to be driving in the snow, or in any extreme conditions, but this is probably the worst as it's maybe ice, but eventually you're gonna get some icy patches. But generally speaking, speed is going to be the major factor. Also, as I always say, experience and the level of experience you've had and where that experience comes from, and the type of car you drive, and if you have winter tires, and if you have winter tires with studs or chains or anything else. But those are really extreme, I shouldn't say really extreme actions, but for living in, at least in the lower mainland, for sure. Higher elevation, different story, but in the city, maybe studs. But good winter tires and experience, and the level of experience that you have had and how often you've driven in these situations, right? So that's going to be number one. But the basics of it are going to be speed, distance, and your following distance will be increased, your stopping and braking distance will increase, acceleration and deceleration smoother stops, thinking about stopping sooner, applying your brakes sooner. If you have ABS braking in your car, which I will get into in this video very shortly. So all these things will factor in how how confident you're going to feel in the car, and how your car is going to behave, and how quickly your car is going to stop, and is your car going to slide, and how much you're going to slide, and if you're taking your turns or corners downhill or down a slope, or if you're just going too fast. These things are going to be a factor. So speed, cutting down your speed is always going to be the first common denominator, and then after that, all these things that I just mentioned will kind of follow down into that umbrella. So without further ado, let's get to it. Okay, so the first thing you should do is clear your car off. And by that I mean, snow, any frost, any coverage that you have on your windows and your roof as well. So first thing, get in the car, start the car, put your rear defroster on, turn on your heat and your fans on, like maybe not full blast, but at least 2 or 3. I usually do 2 or 3, sometimes full blast, but I try not to. And as I said, start the car, lift up your windshield wipers depending on the amount of snow you have on your car, and then clear everything off, and then scrape everything off after that, or vice versa, depending on what you're dealing with. In this case, this is actually the first snowfall we had. So this is from a few weeks back, and this was fairly mild. So we'll get into the thick of it in a moment. But so I always like to do my windshield wipers, and usually I actually leave my windshield wipers up if I know it's going to snow, or depending on the weather conditions, prior night, so that way they don't freeze or freeze onto your windshield, etc., etc. So that's kind of what it should look like. It's not the best camera work, but your windows should be cleared, your back windows. So again, turn everything on, scrape your car off. And then here we go. This is the recent snow dump that we've had. It's a different car, but nonetheless the same thing. So start it up, make sure that you clear everything off. So again, your roof, your back windows, you can actually get a ticket if you don't clear the snow off of your car off properly. I can't speak. So these are, pretty mild conditions. So depending on the temperature, as long as the snow is not sticking to the ground, it's going to be fine. Now here a little bit slushy, but still, you're not going to have a major loss of control here, especially if you go on at good speed and you have good winter tires and you have good experience and you know how to handle the car in these situations, right? So slushy is not bad, but then these conditions can change very quickly, and just like that, and boom, we are in, you know, winter wonderland, right? Welcome to Narnia. So it looks very pretty. It looks beautiful, but it's kind of a bitch to drive unless you, and there's really no way for me to explain it other than if you just experience it on yourself, right? So, but again, speed limit is going to be the major factor here. So I'm going maybe 20, 30 kilometers an hour. Usually if it's like this, you're not going to be doing your road test because usually it's going to be canceled if the snow conditions are pretty bad, like in this case. And when it snowed on this day, I believe this was on a Thursday, road tests were canceled, at least in the lower mainland. So expect that to happen. But again, if you're going around curves, corners, slow down, or just slow down in general if you don't know what you're doing. But you know, take the car out and go out there and practice and test the car out and test out your brakes and test out what the car can do. Go into a parking lot. I will show all these things coming up. But unless you go out there and you experience these things on your own, there's really nothing I can say to prep you for that, right? And then when you have situations like this, when the road is a little bit black, so you know you definitely want to drive on the black parts of the road. But there's still going to be patches, you know, slushy, icy patches, depending on the temperature. Sometimes the stuff's going to freeze overnight. Black ice or just frozen patches of ice and snow, slushy snow, that's the worst. I'll be making a left turn coming up here. So again, if you're doing these turns in these situations, especially when you have thick snow, you can get stuck in it too. So you do want to have a good amount of speed, but you know, also not too fast, because once you start sliding out of control, the only thing that's going to stop you is another solid object in most cases, unless you're lucky. So it's going to be either another car that's parked on the side of the road or the curb, and I'm sure that's not how you want to stop. Okay, now we're going to get into some stopping distance. So make sure that you apply your brakes early if you need to. There's always going to be a little bit of sliding down. You're never going to be stopping dead. My car has anti-lock braking system, ABS, which prevents the wheels from locking. You can look that up. If you're going downhill, like in this case, make sure that you apply your brakes early. See that little bit of slippage at the end? So be mindful. Doing some donuts in a parking lot, why not? But essentially the car is always going to slide a little bit, and it's going to take a little bit for the brakes to actually kick in and come to a full stop. So the wheels are actually spinning. It's hard to explain. I'm not going to get into, you know, the technicality of it, but just feel your car out. Go into a parking lot, do some donuts, do some braking, do some maneuvers, you know, have some fun with it, and that way you'll know what your car is going to behave at different speeds, at certain speeds, downhill, uphill, etc., 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 right? You don't want to test these things out on the road if you've never done it before. Maybe go to a parking lot or a side street, or do it on your, you know, whatever, in some safe environment and safe conditions. So again, I'm just having a little bit of fun, doing some donuts, just turning my wheels and applying the emergency brake. That's basically the trick to it. And you know, the faster you go, the more of a full circle, full spin you can do. There's other things you can add to it to make it better. Here's a little bit more stopping distance. So there you go. The car still comes to a stop and still slides a little bit. Takes, you know, a little bit of time and space depending on how fast you're moving. But the most important thing is slow down and, you know, just go out there and practice in these conditions. Don't be afraid. It's just, there's only one way to get there. Practice, practice, practice. Experience, experience, experience. So stay safe. Hope this video helps, and take care.